And I don't pretend to be an expert. I mean, I'm a year and a half into this, and every time I look at it, I have to shake my head a little bit. But generally, the budget guidance for Congress starts in the House, and so that is generally with Paul Ryan, who chairs the Budget Committee or Finance Committee, whatever it's called, and he allocates an amount to each committee and says you must stay within this limit. So our budget generally competes with EPA. Forest Service, I think, is dealt with in another committee. And so we never get a shot at what is the overall federal budget picture and where do we fit into that. Our best shot at that is in the president's budget.
One of the reasons we're looking at treating juniper is sage grouse. Okay, juniper is native to the landscape, but because of the way that we have controlled wildfire for so long, possibly some climate change issues, there's a lot of other things going on, juniper has expanded its range greatly. And so one of the things we're looking at is trying, especially because of the controlling of fire aspect, we're trying to reset the clock. We're trying to take juniper in places where it's expanded its range unnaturally and put those back into the habitat types that they should be in. Okay, and sage grouse is one of those species that benefit from that. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you here is to get that perspective of being a sage grouse. We're in what's called a phase 1 juniper stand here. Everything is still complete. We still have shrubs, we still have native grasses, and we've got juniper. They're all kind of co-dominant on the site.
And it was sort of that perfect storm of a lot of partners with shared objectives, fit in exactly with what we were wanting to do. And instead of trying to kind of go off and do our own thing, why not tag on to something that's already in the works and we can all get shared benefit out of it.
That's one of the things we kind of jokingly, it's kind of become our mantra, I think, after last year, is when nobody takes credit, we all win.
When we think about the sagebrush steppe ecosystem that is so important to this part of Oregon and is so critical to habitat for the greater sage grouse, we really can't be looking at it on a state-by-state basis or county-by-county basis. We really need to look at it as a holistic landscape. So you've got sort of the region here that we're in, and you've got different sagebrush landscape as you go farther east. They're different, so we look at those a little differently, but they are large, many millions of acre landscapes, and we're not going to conserve the habitat for these birds or mule deer or other species if we don't look more broadly. My predecessor, Ken Salazar, brought all of the governors together from the 11 states that are involved, but also invited NGOs in that were doing work, invited ranching organizations and farming organizations to the table so that we could work together to understand these landscapes that we're all responsible for. You know, we heard when we were out in the field about how fast the juniper has encroached on these landscapes and how quickly sage-grouse will disappear. With only a 4% canopy cover from juniper, the sage-grouse go away. Juniper has sprung up on this landscape like never before, and some of that is fueled by weather patterns and conditions, some of it may be exacerbated by fire. But as we see those changes in the ecosystem, we're seeing dramatic changes in the population of sage-grouse and their ability to reproduce and their ability to thrive with their young. So time is of the essence because the landscapes are changing fast. Oregon, and particularly southern and eastern Oregon, are in the middle of a profound drought. It is a multi-year drought. That is already stressing some of these species. When you add the encroachment of species like juniper or invaders like cheatgrass, you really ruin these landscapes. And what we heard today is you're ruining them in some cases for hundreds of years, certainly decades, but hundreds of years. So it's very easy to lose this habitat and very difficult to get it back, which is why time is of the essence. Today was a great day. It was a really wonderful opportunity for me to see on the ground what the BLM is doing on the lands under its stewardship, what the Fish and Wildlife Service is doing to work with partners in the private sector, what the USDA is doing through the National Resources Conservation Service to provide resources to private landowners and to us on Department of Interior lands to really address some of the threats to this landscape that we've talked about, juniper being the main example here. So what we saw today in Oregon was a wonderful example of the state working alongside private landowners and federal government agencies to conserve the habitat that's so necessary for the sage grouse, mule deer, and others. What's done in Oregon, and it's been done in a relatively short time frame, is something that we know provides a model that other states can follow. In the case of the sage grouse, it's 11 states in the West that are going to need to come together to protect the habitat necessary for this bird to thrive. Oregon is doing a great job of showing the way.